Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Richard Skipper Celebrates. It's my Friday wrap-up show. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. I hope it won't be your last time. My show is all about celebrating life, celebrating art, celebrating artists, and celebrating whatever we can take the time to do so when we take the time to do so in this crazy world that we're living in. What I like to do on Fridays is bring people together from the arts, from various areas of my life and social media, bring them together, talk about their processes, what they've been celebrating, what's going on in their life, and put it together in a nice, neat little package. And so, and there's some great friends waiting in the wings here. I can see that my friend Erin is here. She's one of our sponsors and one of my dearest, dearest, dearest friends. And she helps me out in so many ways. So Erin, thank you for being here. Alan is here, Alan Choi from San Francisco. I don't know how he does it, but he shows up for me all the time. He practically watches every show. He comments on every show. He shares every show. He truly is what you call a stand-up person in a sit-down world. So if you've seen my promos, you've seen that I have four incredible people that I've invited to be on the show today. But just before showtime, one of my favorite guests sent me information about her upcoming show. And I said, how would you like to come on and be a mystery guest on today's show? And she said, yes. She will be getting equal time, just like everyone else, to promote her upcoming show. But I asked Alan before we went, and hello, Joyce, it's good to see you. I asked Alan to pick a number 1 through 5. So none of our guests know who they are. They don't know what number they are in the lineup, but I'm going to pull a number. And just to give her a hint, I think she is in North Carolina. So that'll give her a clue as to who my first guest is. And I'm going to say a few words before I bring her on. Earlier this week, I read an incredible blog by a friend of mine about customer service. And I mentioned this because we met because, in a sense, customer service. She was working at one of my favorite venues in New York, and that is, it was called Feinstein's 54 Below at the time. It's now just 54 Below. But she made that place sparkle. She was always great to all of the guests. And I asked her to come on the show today, and she's here. She had a little difficulty getting here, but she's
Can you
here.
hear me now?
I can hear you perfectly. So I want to begin by asking you, Valerie, who or what have you celebrated today?
Who or what? Well, I celebrate you when I knew that today was the day that you had asked me to join you, because you're so terrific and I just love you. And the fact that you love to celebrate other people and hold them up in the light, it's just wonderful, and you do such an amazing job. And I was thinking of my time at 54, and I was thinking of things that I've great memories. And one memory of you, dear one, you sang when until the parade passes by, but you came out from the backstage and came through the room, and it was magical. And I can't remember what show it was. Was it a private party?
It was a benefit.
It was a benefit, right? And it was just great.
And they asked me to do it, and I was thrilled that they asked me to do it. And I didn't know how it would go over, because I think I was the oldest one in the show, and all these young kids that were performing, and I came out and did this number, and the response that I got was beyond anything that I could have even asked.
It was overwhelming. So and I also celebrate fall. I love autumn. It's my favorite time of year because I hate being hot. And I just love when the seasons change and the leaves turn beautiful colors. And they also teach us to let things go, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, here in New York, this is our 7th weekend of rain.
Oh, no.
Yes, it's raining right now. I mean, it's a very very dark, murky, rainy type of thing. But I love autumn. I think it's my favorite season out of the year. I look forward to this type. I love Halloween. I love, and I love the fact that a lot of people are really getting in the spirit, pun intended, of decorating their homes the way
I've
they
seen a lot more too. Yeah.
now, you are living in North Carolina now. Are the leaves changing there?
Yes. 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 We have 4 seasons. I mean, a lot of summer, but we do have a really pretty autumn, and all the trees are, because we have tons of pine trees, but then we still have the mix in between. So we have the change of color, which is beautiful. And then we're 3 hours from the mountains. So that's really pretty up there too. They had snow at high elevations last week already, but that's nowhere near where we are. Not where
They're
we are.
expecting a big snowstorm in the Midwest this week.
Mm.
Now, do you get an opportunity to see a lot of live entertainment where you are now?
You know, it wasn't so much in the beginning when we first got here, but it's getting a lot better. And Morgan Sills with the Judson Theater Company, you do
Yes.
know Morgan. Well, he puts on some really great productions here and does a wonderful job and brings talent down from New York.
Drop my name.
Uh,
I have a presentation I want to bring there.
Oh, good, 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 good. I'm trying to get Marilyn May down here. And I've spoken to Morgan about it. And I told Marilyn about it when I saw her on her birthday. And she said, oh, yes, 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 I'll definitely come down. I'll bring a pianist with me. I'll bring Ted and we'll put on a great show. I'm like, okay, let's make it happen.
If you book her, she'll show up. But you just saw my friend Linda Pearl there.
Oh, so amazing. So amazing. She embodied, it was Joan. It was just, I mean, we were like shook after Mom and I went and waited for her behind scenes to say hello. And Mom said right away, can I just give you a hug? And she said, yeah, of course. So we both gave her a hug, and Morgan said where I used to work. And she was just so gracious and kind and so talented. And that show, I mean, I don't know how she did it for nights on end because it's so powerful. She's terrific. Yeah.
She is an amazing actress. And it's interesting, you know, one of my daily guilty pleasures now, Judy Norton is a friend of mine from the Waltons. And every day at 12 noon, I stop everything and I watch the Waltons. And I'm not ashamed to tell you this. I sit there and I cry because these stories are so moving. And
we need more shows like that.
You know, it's like a cathartic good cry. And it's interesting, you know, today, and I'm bringing this up here, is Community Media Day. And today's show, John Boy Walton has his own newspaper, and he was reading about the fact that Hitler was rising to power in Germany and was banning and burning books. Does this sound familiar, folks? And so he wanted to write about it in the newspaper. And the people, all the advertisers pulled out. Ike Gotzi's store would not have him, the newspaper in the store. All these people were upset, not realizing that he was just trying to get the message across that if we're not careful, this is going to happen here as well. And guess what, folks? It's happening now in this country. And it was really a very powerful message. Well, I want to get our next guest on, and you're going to help me do that. But one of the things that I do on Friday is I do a mystery question. And I've got 5 mystery cards laid out. So pull a number 1 through 5, and then we'll bring on our next guest.
Okay. 3.
And your question is, in what way do you feel that your childhood was happier than other people's childhoods?
Oh, not happier. I mean, it was interesting because I got to experience both coasts of the United States because we moved a lot when I was growing up, and we lived between New York City and Reno, Nevada. So I went to schools in both cities back and forth, and they were like night and day. So I got to experience a lot more interacting and thrown into situations, and it did make me happier because I got to always be the new person. So I kind of had to try to blend in easy, like faster. So not happier, but interesting. I mean, I was always a happy kid, though.
That's
So
great.
I seem to always look at the positive side of things, and I try to. And a lot of times I don't even try. It just works out that way.
It
So
just works out that way. Well, let's
yeah.
welcome our next guest. So pull a number 1 through 4, and everyone be ready. You don't know who I'm going to pull up next.
Okay. 2.
And I am excited to have her back. She's been on the show a few times. She's actually going to be doing a very special reading that's going to be coming up. She's an incredible actress, entertainer, and she's here with us today, and that's Claudine. I am so thrilled that you're back. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, thank you. I'm thrilled. So there, yeah.
And you and Valerie know each other? Did you ever meet
No.
Valerie?
No, hi, Valerie.
Hi, Claudine. Nice to meet you. Finally.
Same
So
here.
I want to ask you, Claudine, who or what have you celebrated today?
I'm going to say this. I got 2 things to say. One, it's my anniversary this weekend, so I'm going to celebrate my husband. That's
The anniversary.
yeah.
How long have you been together?
39.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's a lot to celebrate, you know. In fact, I'm trying to work on something, and I've been writing notes about how we met and all we didn't like each other when we first met. So then how we found out that we did like each other. Was kind of interesting. But yeah, so I'm celebrating him because he's real special.
So what changed? I mean, how did
I don't know. It's a mystery what changed. We were doing a show together, and we had to work opposite each other. And I felt that our styles were not going, and he felt our styles were not going. And then all of a sudden, our styles on stage worked together, and it took about 3-4 weeks. But I do remember calling my girlfriend and saying, "God, there's this guy here. He's awful." And he said something to other people. So it was like very funny. So there was this like clash between the way we worked, and then we melded, and that was a good thing.
Is he still in the profession as well?
Oh, he is. Yeah, he's an actor. He was in Come From Away for 5 years.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, and he's going to be doing a new play at York Theatre coming up called The Jerusalem Syndrome.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I love the York Theatre.
Yeah.
So what are the dynamics like? I mean, you're very lucky if either of you get into a long-running show.
Right.
And Come Away ran for quite some time.
Yeah.
What does that do in terms of the dynamics of the relationship, both at home and then if you're both working at the same time? How does that work out?
Yeah, well, I got to say, I was in theater full time for like 18, 19, 20 years, and then I changed professions. So, and that was basically because we had a child. And most of my work was always in regional theater. Or if I was in New York, I was like understudy for like 29 people. And I couldn't, he has nerves of steel. He can do it. I can't. So I went into education because I was interested very much in arts education. So that's the direction I went. But the one thing he did that's absolutely amazing, there were many times he could have done major roles in national tours or pre-Broadway tours, many, many times. And instead he said, "No, I'm staying home because we're going to be a family at home in New York." So I think we both made that decision to just be here and raise our son. And that was really great. So we're like a trio, which is
I
nice.
love that. I've always said, my husband and I, we've been together 34 years.
Congratulations.
And I can't imagine being involved in a relationship with someone in this business. And I've often said that when he gets to the pearly gates, St. Peter's going to say, "Here's your purple heart." For from what he has experienced with me all these years, the ups, the downs, the mood swings, all of that it entails.
Yeah.
What is your secret for bringing it all together? Or is there a secret?
I don't know that there is a secret. I think it's just being in tune with each other. I mean, I can tell when he's tired, or I can tell when, he's frustrated about something or hyped up about something. He is my best coach. If I'm preparing something, I go to him. I have no saliency determination. Everything is important. And he helps me to sculpt away all the junk. So I have to trust him on that. But as far as he is, he's a very mellow fellow, and not a lot shakes him. So I think that's the secret. I think it's just being in tune with each other.
That's great. Well, stick around. We're not finished yet. We've got more coming ahead, but we're going to bring on our next guest. But before we do, there are 4 questions, 1 through 4.
Okay. I'll take 4.
And your question is, what thing are you most, what thing were you most scared to tell your parents as a teenager?
As a teenager? Wow. I don't know that there were too many things as a teenager, but I will say, I was kind of a teenager. I was 18. They wanted me to go to college to study, to be a teacher. And I wanted to be away from home. So I went to a state university away from home. And my major was speech education. And I never told them that in my second semester, I changed my major to theater. And I didn't tell them for about 2 years.
Wow.
So that was when I finally let them know, I think I was in a show when they came to see it. And that's I let them know. And by the way, this is my major. So I'm not going to be a teacher right now.
I'm sure they were convinced that you had made the right decision at that point.
I think so. I think my father was really kind of, I can borrow a phrase, failing. He was pretty out there. The show was Peter Pan, and he was just very excited. Yeah. So yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to help bring on our next guest.
Okay.
So door number 1, door number 2, door number 3.
All right. I'll take door number 3.
Door number 3, and she happens to be our mystery guest.
Ooh.
And she was on the show not too long ago. She is a phenomenal entertainer, and she is going to be performing on Monday night on the other coast, as they used to say, with a new CD release concert. I am so thrilled. At the last minute, spontaneity is the spice of life, and she proves it. Angela, welcome to the show. I am so thrilled that you're here. And who or what have you celebrated today?
Oh, I'm having one of those days where it's funny that you should say that, because I'm, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. I consider it a great blessing to be here and with these amazing guests. And nice to meet you, Valerie and Claudine.
Thank you.
Great to be here. It's funny, since we're on strike. And SAG is on strike, and as a result, I actually work in the film business behind the scenes. I'm a prop master in addition to music, and so all of us together are kind of suffering. It's been very long,
and I'll let you know. I hate to interrupt. We're getting there's another channel or something that happens to be open. Mm-hmm. We're hearing other voices.
Oh,
so you may want to turn that off.
Okay.
Now that's
Are you
better.
still hearing it?
Yes. No, it's gone.
Okay. I'm so sorry. So this morning I actually spent kind of counting my blessings. And so it's just funny that you should ask me. I think I have a lot to be thankful for. I'm thankful that I talked to you this morning and that I ended up being here. I'm thankful for music in my life. I'm so thankful to have that. To me, performing and music are magic. And so I'm just so grateful that, for whatever reason, when I was a young kid, I picked up a guitar in kindergarten, and I have never stopped my relationship with music since then. I'm very grateful for that. So there's much to be thankful for.
And thank you for being out there on the front lines, fighting for all of us artists. Do you see any resolution ahead? I mean, obviously, this is what we are hoping, but where do you see things going right now?
Well, I'm not the expert on any level, but I feel like this fight has been a long time coming. I feel like, it's been a decade of this technology moving forward. I feel like the streaming companies have been making money for a really long time and not addressing the issues that are in front of us now. So I think I can't speak for everyone who's in IATSE, but I can tell you that my peers very much support SAG and AFTRA in their efforts to delineate the subject, the issues that need to be solved. It's kind of like doing laundry and cleaning house. They have to be solved for us to move forward.
Well, I don't know if you've heard the latest, but Netflix is going up in price for the customers, and they are negotiating to have brick and mortar stores. So what does that tell you, folks? They're doing very well, and they, and they will continue to do very well. I mean, if God forbid all artists were to cease working today, that would not affect the future of Netflix or Amazon or any of these streaming services. And we all know this in this business, that people feel that the artist are dispensable. I mean, when I see commercials where they are animating the actors instead of showing the real actors, that bothers me. There are so many areas where we've cut and cut and cut. But thank God that you're out there. And one thing that cannot be replicated is what you do on stage. So, and you are, one of the things that you said to me the last time that I really love about you is that you give a safe haven for a lot of artists. So if you can talk about the work that you're doing with your company and the venues that you're performing in.
Okay, thank you. I love that. That segue was brilliant, I have to tell you. I started a band. I've done music all my life, but one of the things that I kind of found out about 15 years ago was my dad was a teacher, and when he corrected papers when I was a kid, he played big band and jazz. And I discovered big band a couple of years ago. And in talking with those musicians, I found out that basically everyone who works in big band, with very few exceptions, basically works for free. And I was appalled by the fact that people had toured with Ray Charles and Ella Fitzgerald and were all working for nothing. So I started a smaller group, an octet. And my goal with that group genuinely was to find a way to get musicians a way to perform and be paid for it. And so that was Angela O'Neill and the Outrageous Eight. During the course of that, I expanded into individual members of that octet, and I produced a record for our trumpet player in the octet, whose name is Paul Litteral. And Paul Litteral is a very famous, well-known trumpet player from New York, actually. He was in a group called the Uptown Horns in New York City for ages, and toured with the Stones and toured with the Honey Drippers, toured with an unbelievable number, recorded with Billy Joel, did live shows with Billy Joel. And so we produced his solo trumpet record starting during 2020, and we finished recently. So this is his CD release party this coming Monday. And it is at the Write-Off Room in Studio City, which really supports musicians and music. And I'm just, I'm just thrilled to celebrate him and his incredible artistry and his history as a trumpet player.
And I'll have all this information also on my YouTube channel so that people can, if they're not able to get there, at least they can get the CD. Even after the event. So we'll have that information up there. So you're going to bring on our, but before we bring on our next guest, there are 3 cards laid out. So 1, 2, 3.
2.
And your question is, what is something that you are self-conscious about when it comes to your art?
Oh, that's a good one. I want to give you a totally, truthful answer. I think I'm an incredible musician, but I'm not sure I'm a great singer. So I work really hard on my singing. I rehearse. Originally, I was an oboe player. And so my approach to singing is to rehearse it until I always say you could set a bomb off in front of me and I wouldn't miss a beat. So that's one of the things I'm really insecure about is I don't think I have a great instrument. I know I don't have a very distinct instrument, but I'm a good musician. So I try really hard with my singing to be a good storyteller.
Well, I'm going to say something before we bring on our next guest. Last night, after 3 nights, and this is the 34th year this has been going on here in New York, and I'm sure Valerie and Claudine know about this. It's the Mabel Mercer Cabaret Convention. Mabel Mercer, for those of you who don't know, was not the greatest singer in the world, but she was the greatest interpreter of song. Frank Sinatra said that everything he learned about singing and phrasing, he learned from Mabel Mercer. So even though you may not think that you're the greatest singer, I love what everyone brings to the table. So celebrate what it is that you bring to the table. And know
Julie Wilson, for example.
Julie Wilson.
Yeah.
Yes. And
I always say, that what I really concentrate on is knowing what the song is about. And I try to bring an emotional experience to people. So I can't sing a song that I don't know what the story is about. So that's what I try to bring.
Well, we've had the women all up front. There are 2 men waiting in the wings, and both of them are going to bring an emotional experience to this stage. So pull the number 1 or 2 before you mute yourself. 1 or 2.
1.
Okay. I am so excited to bring this guy on stage because he's been on the show before. We devoted an entire show to him. I love this man. I do. There's an incredible documentary about Robert and his mom, and he had his own theater company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, in marionettes. And that is a lost art form. I mean, everybody, he's going to go get a marionette. Get Judy or Carol. Bring Carol.
Oh, I don't have the fucking lights on.
He didn't know I was going to do this. He's got this incredible theater, and you have to go and watch this documentary because it is so moving. And I will tell you that, and we'll talk about this when he comes on. Is Carol nearby?
The fair. You mean me as Carol? You want me to put that?
No. The marionette.
I don't have a dresser here, Richard.
No, the marionette Carol.
Wait a second. There's so much shit back here.
Oh my gosh, this is so amazing.
This is live, everybody. We're live.
That's the best kind.
No editing here.
Maybe he should bitch out his stagehand.
But he's got this theater, and unfortunately, it was hit with COVID, and it was a casualty. And after years and years and years, look at this. I just love this.
Friday afternoon. Celebrate the start of the weekend with your
These marionettes are incredible.
She's dressed as the angel fairy.
Yay!
Fairy, and she plays the diamond fairy in Sleeping Beauty, and she plays the fairy godmother in Cinderella's Christmas. And I really get pissed off when people say, I liked your Joan Rivers impersonation. I don't think my Carol sounds anything like Joan. God, I'm out of breath now, Richard.
Yes. Well, Robert, I'm sorry I've got you running around before.
No, that's all right.
But Robert, I mean, the documentary was a couple of years ago at the beginnings of COVID.
It really is the first picture that covered COVID. It was supposed to, the major photography had been shot and then we were going to celebrate our 30th anniversary. Pardon me. And then, of course, the lockdown happened, and we were going to try to open the next show. And then as soon as Broadway closed, and that's when we closed. And then the picture took a turn, and Al thought we should continue, you know, with COVID and dealing with COVID. So I did a lot of photography. So it was very helpful to have something to do during COVID. And it's a beautiful, a great filmmaker named Alexander Minnelli. And I'm very proud of the film.
So where is everything now as far as the theater is concerned?
Geez. Well, first of all, let me say, Angela, I also worked in props for years and years and years.
Oh,
I did a lot of technical work, and I was always hired as a technician and not an actor. And that was hard on my ego, but I would do it. Hair, makeup, sets, costumes, set dressings. And then all of that comes together with the Marionette Theater. But I think what Richard's referring to, we never did reopen. My mom's 88, and she was the volunteer house manager, business manager, publicist, etc. And she wanted relieved from it. So we disbanded the nonprofit. The worst part was having to take the marquees down. And Richard, you were so kind to me because you texted me when the marquees were coming down. And if I would celebrate anything, it's celebrating our friendship, because you have gone above and beyond the call of duty and supported me. I find it very. I can't tell you how awful it is not to be on stage when it's just ghastly. But I don't think it's too much considering everything that's going on in the world.
I know. One of the things that I want to mention about this film is, and of course, I read a quote recently that all of our lives are actually the director's cut. And I love that. It's what we put out into the world that people see. And a lot of people don't see the warts and everything else that we're experiencing. It's the director's cut that they see. But Robert, I have to say, this movie and the relationship between you and your mom, we see the warts, we see the fights, we see everything. What was it like for this film crew to follow your mom?
Well, it's just Al. It's just one man. It was just Al. And of course, he loved it. And I described our relationship. It's a combination of Grey Gardens and now Voyager.
That's right.
And I'm Betty Davis and Edie.
On that note, I want to get our next guest on, because patience is the virtue in this business, and he's been waiting patiently through the entire show. I want to get him out of here as quickly as possible, but there are two mystery questions. So pick a number, 1 or 2.
1.
And your question is, what are you most worried about with the next generation when it comes to art?
Well, I think COVID and the pandemic hurt the arts deeply. And I don't think we're going to know the effect for some time. Shit, what was the question, Richard?
I think you answered it. What are you most
also with what you were talking about with the strike, and well, it's not Avatar, but when they digitally produce actors, and I just can't believe the stage is my main thing, because then you get the reaction. But I have friends that are still working, and I can't imagine. It has to be bigger and better and wider, and I don't know. That's the best I could do. May I add something else I'd like to celebrate? Yes. I'd like to celebrate Michael McGraw. I don't know if you know Michael. I went to school with Michael. Michael was the original Patsy in Spamalot. He won the Tony for Nice Work, if you can get it. And he was Tony nominated for Spamalot and lots of Broadway. And he's been working ever since he left the conservatory. And he unexpectedly died a couple of weeks ago.
Sorry.
And he was a good friend, an incredibly talented actor. And it's difficult when your classmates and contemporaries start.
I know.
But he had one hell of a career.
Yeah, that's true. And we just recently lost Stephen Luttvack, suddenly, and another amazing artist. Well, I want to bring on our next guest. Before I do, I want to mention his next show. It's called Woman Songs. I love this title because he celebrates the women that he's learned from, both through song and life experience. He's one of my favorite people in cabaret. It's his first time here, but we keep bumping into each other. And Ryan, I'm going to be in the audience of your show next week.
Oh, how wonderful. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see everybody on this rainy day.
So I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm going to begin by asking you, who or what have you celebrated today?
Today I celebrated, I teach at a high school on the Lower East Side, a regular Board of Ed high school. It's the marking period closed today for the first marking period. So I wanted to give the kids a real sense of, I teach an exam prep class. They have to pass the English regions to get out of high school. And a lot of them are English language learners. So it's very difficult. It's difficult for the American kids too, but I sprung a test on them today with a timer, and just to see what they could do. I'm not grading it. I just wanted to see if they could pass the muster in 45 minutes and do something that just to demonstrate that they understood what was being asked with the time constraint. And then I asked them to color code it so they would know what was missing, blah, blah, blah. And most of them did it. They gave it to me on the way out the door, and they're very nervous at first, but then it all turned around. They walked out feeling confident. So I celebrate them because it's a horrible exam. It's a really boring class, and it's just hard to make it fun. And they really rose to the occasion. And they all came today too, so there was no chance to grade grub, which is usually what happens. They all proved to me they had mastered something, so I was very pleased.
Well, Ryan, I want to celebrate your new show. It's called Woman Song, and
Correct.
What was the spark or the inspiration for you to create this show?
Well, when you put a show together, there's always songs you have to put aside and you can't sing because it doesn't fit the theme or it's too long or whatever. And I looked at a lot of the songs I had, and they happened to be about women. And then I thought, well, how am I going to string them all together? What would the thread be? And then I thought, the women in my life have been the teachers. And so I thought of all the teachers, because you see that question on Facebook, do you remember your third grade teacher's name? And I remember all of them, and not all happy, by the way. But then I thought I'll come up with a story for each one, and the songs will fit. I'll make the songs fit. So that's what part of it's about, because they taught me about myself and how I cope in certain situations. But they also taught me what not to do. So you're going to get a lot of that. And then the other person that taught me something was my grandmother. And just to make a long story short, I learned when I was a teenager that she had gotten pregnant out of wedlock in the 1930s, and how she navigated that, and how she navigated her marriage and motherhood. And it was very, very interesting because she grew up in a mill town in Massachusetts. Her father had died when she was very young. She went to work in the mill. She was seduced by this handsome man, and they were Catholic. She was Episcopalian, and she finds herself in the family way. She would not talk about it, and I discovered it when I was 13. And when I was 30, I asked her about it because by then she had her claws weren't so apparent, and she had mellowed, and there was an opportunity, and I went for it, and I found out an enormous amount. And what was interesting at that time, I was just going to begin going to college at 30 because I didn't go out of high school. And she was, of course, very thrilled that I was going to college. But I see a lot of her in my students in terms of their attitude and just how they approach their life and their tenacity. So she taught me a lot. So, and then, of course, my students teach me. So that's the genesis of the show. That's how I put it together. But now I've got to learn it because I'm a big talker on the cabaret stage, and I wrote a lot that I've got to memorize. So
I'm going to ask you a question, and if this is given away in your show, say, Richard, come and see the show and find out. So, and we'll get everyone else to do the same thing.
Okay.
But when your grandmother found that she was in the family way, because we hear these stories of this happened to many women, that wasn't an isolated incident at that time. The Murrays and the world was a different place. Did she stay where this happened, or did she leave town to have the child?
No, what happened was she waited until she was sure, and then she told her mother, and her mother marched over to the man in question. His parents ran a store in the town. She marched over and she waited for Carl to come. This is my nanny Cobb, and she waited for him to show up, and then she told him what the situation was. This is my great grandmother. She went over and she totally protected her daughter. She told Carl that he was going to marry her daughter, and that was that. And her daughter would convert, and they wouldn't say anything more about it. And that's what happened. And
They stayed together?
And then my mother came along 6 months later.
Wow.
A premature birth. Did they stay together?
Did they what?
Stay together.
They stayed together. They were married. I think they were married about 55 years.
Wow.
Wow.
But it was a tough marriage because he was an alcoholic, and when we were growing up, he didn't work. She did, and we never understood why he didn't work, and he couldn't drive at night. And eventually, of course, we found out. But they had a very tempestuous marriage, but they were both very tough, independently minded people and determined, very stubborn.
Wow. Well, there's one question left, and then we're going to do a little fun round robin thing with everyone. The question for you is, what is the most surprising self-realization that you've had creating this show?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one. Well, I would say that I've had I think. Oh, I don't know that I can answer that. It's been hard. I'm not sure I enjoy creating it, but I'm not sure I enjoy performing it. I think it's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, because people expect certain things, and when they come to see me, they love the stories, and I don't really enjoy talking. I like to sing, but as you know, I'm hearing impaired, so it's tricky. But I think what I realized is I don't enjoy it as much as I should. But there you have it. That's your answer.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
I like the result, but I don't enjoy the process all the time.
Uh, well, thank you for that. Again, for those of you who may be tuning in for the first time, I'm a real proponent of Julia Cameron's The Artist Way. I do my morning pages every morning. I do a lot of reading. I'm working with a career coach right now who I highly recommend, Patrice McKinley. I am shout out to you. We meet every Thursday by Zoom, and she is changing my life. I love you, love you, love you, Patrice McKinley. And we were talking. She said, "Well, how do you describe me to others?" And it's the accountability of showing up each week. And we've just been together. We're on the fourth chapter of this journey that we're on together, and I'm just learning a lot about myself, and I learn through others as well. So I'm going to go around with each of you, and Valerie,
Yes.
you have been in the service industry, in many different areas of the service industry. What do you feel is the biggest injustice that you ever experienced in the service industry, and how did you get through it?
Injustice?
Injustice.
People feeling entitled? You mean that?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Just, it's surprising the amount of rudeness that you'll encounter. And you can tell a lot about a person when you're on the other end of serving in any kind of service. I'm sure everybody can relate to that. And everybody serves someone, right? But
Yes.
you can really tell a person by how they treat the person that's serving them. And just the amount of rudeness, it's I don't know. You get what you put out, right?
There's a
Hopefully for some.
There's a famous quote, I can't remember who said it, and he said, if you really want to know the value of a person, take them out to dinner and see how they treat the wait staff.
You know what? At my time at 54 Below, which was 3.5 years, amazing memories, and I cherish all of them, and I met such amazing people and fantastic experiences. But the way that they are in person behind, like doing their warm up and their sound check, and the way they treat the staff, that's how we promote their shows. So if you're an asshole, I'm not telling anybody to come and see you. I don't care. I'll take the night off, because you know what? We only would promote the ones that we love. I mean, I used to put so many things on social media to promote people and their shows because we just love them. Some graciousness and niceties and pleasantness goes a long way.
Good for you.
So the moral of the story is, don't be an asshole.
Claudia, you pretty much touched on this earlier, but what truly led you into this profession? What was it about this profession that led you here, and what has kept you here?
Okay. I'm going to go back to Mabel Mercer, because there's a wonderful interview that she did with Hugh Downs. It's on YouTube. You can find it. She talks about, I almost wanted to use it in the next piece I'm doing, but I'm not going to use it because it's very long. But she talks about that ability to reach out and to touch. I mean, I basically, when I retired from education, my best friend, who's a wonderful actress, said to me, well, I want to see you go to auditions now. And I said, well, why would I do that? And I said, no, because I can create my own shows and do what I want. And the songs, and now I'm finding, and Ryan is a great person to talk to this, but I'm finding that the personal stories also, that you can reach out to people, you can look them in the eye, and you can get the response, and it changes you. It changes, it brings something new to you. And it's thrilling. When it happens, it's thrilling. It doesn't always happen, but when it happens, it's thrilling. So
Absolutely.
That's
great. Angela, what pace best suits your personal time and energy in this business?
What pace?
Yes.
Can you clarify what you mean by that?
Yeah. Are you like? I mean, some people are constantly behind the 8 ball. Some people have everything mapped out. I mean, what is your routine in terms of how you actually live both your on and off stage time?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you for clarifying. I am not a behind the 8 ball person, and I'm not inherently a procrastinator, I don't think. I'm a little spacey. So I really had to compensate for that in my life, because I will get distracted easily. I'm a Pisces, and I see the whole big picture all the time. So for me, I have to really focus. My pace is one where I make a list every single morning. It is a page long, and I go through that list and I check things off. That is how I do life in general, both musically and personally. It's important to me, music and performing, but also my family is important to me. Other people are important to me. Me showing up for other people is really important to me. So those exist on my list as well. So that's how I do my life. I have a constant list of, I have to sand the deck, but I also have to show up for my sick friend across the street and make her soup, which is what I did this morning. So those things are all priorities to me. I just have to go through my day and make sure that I forgot to pay my bills. So you see what I'm saying? My pace is one where I feel very satisfied at the end of the day if I've had some balance in my life.
I love that. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Robert, in this business, who do you turn to for support?
Oh, Richard, that's a difficult question, and it's something I've been suffering with. I've always have had older friends, and there's a lot of theater in Lancaster. So my training was early, and it wasn't like method. It was like a different generation. Like you were taught to make an entrance. You were taught how to keep yourself. You were taught how to enunciate and pronunciate and final consonants. So most of the majority of the people who I could talk to are no longer here. And that's difficult. So and my mother is not at all artistic, so I can't. That's just not going.
Go and watch the documentary, everyone.
I'm going to.
You certainly, when I chat with you or something, that always inspires me.
Thank you.
My problem. Oh, you're very welcome. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. My problem is that I don't have anyone to bounce ideas off, and my inspiration doesn't last long. Although I have to say, and this won't be, it won't make anything in the box office. I'm working on a Shakespeare project.
Wow.
I figure it will challenge me as an actor and make sure I still have my chops. And the one thing I discovered is iambic pentameter is the same beat as your heart. And that just touches me. So, and with my back issues, it's hard to be, you're bent over when you're doing marionettes. I used to do hand puppets to the shoulders were shot. So I want to do stop action animation with Shakespeare and call it stop action animation and cut it bare bones. And Hamlet is what I'm working on right now, which is Shakespeare's longest play. But I feel a connection with Hamlet, and I don't think he was mad. I think he was bipolar and manic. And Polonius just never feckin' shuts up. So I'm seeing it through I'm seeing it, but I'll be faithful to the bard. I'll be faithful, but I almost see it as a Carol Burnett sort of picture.
I can't wait. I just can't wait.
It's it's slow. But you can do that by yourself. You don't have to count on. I won't have to do front of house. I won't have to do tour.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm also. I'm going to put it out there. My big announcement. I'm writing a new show. I'm putting it out on February 11th at the Laurie Beachman to celebrate my 63rd birthday. James Beeman is going to be directing it and helping me shape the show. When you and you've done a lot of autobiographical shows and everything, when it comes to telling your story, you face your fears, obviously. What is the biggest thing that you are afraid of in terms of telling your truth on stage?
Well, it's interesting because I didn't get personal at all until about 5 years ago when I realized I don't sing well, but I can pull it off if I really need to. I thought I just don't have anything left to say that's lighthearted and, pithy. So I looked at my life and thought, well, this might be interesting, these experiences that I've had. And then I seemed to get a little bit of attention for it. And then people started to come that hadn't seen me. And sometimes I just think it's too much. But when I did a show a few years ago, I just happened to have a song, and I was talking about living in Ireland and the Catholic brothers, and I wrote a piece about being molested by my teacher, and I thought, okay, can I put it in the show? Can I not put it in the show? How do I put it in the show where it's palatable for people, where they're not going to, be turned off by it, and it's not going to derail the show? And it seemed to work. So that gave me a little bit of confidence in terms of being open and honest about things. And then the last show I did, there was a long segment about my sister's alcoholism and anorexia and the battle. It was really more talking, but I'm sorry, what was the question?
No, facing your biggest fears.
Well, I was afraid to do it, and I was afraid of turning the audience off, especially when I was going on and on about my sister and her descent, and it was far more graphic than the Irish piece. But you could hear a pin drop for most of it. For most of the performances. But then there was that one performance where I heard from the audience some kind of noise about you're talking too much. Ooh. And it's the woman sitting the middle aisle, the third seat down, and shut up, sing. And I was just getting to the part where I am responsible for evicting my sister. So this whole thing blew up. And I was far enough into it to think, well, do I go back and begin again? And then I realized, oh, this is the night we chose to videotape. So, out the window. And then who is this woman? So it was, but I just carried on. I think that was, I think I had come into my own as a performer then, and I'd conquered the fear because I was able to just ride roughshod over it and remember sort of what the beats were for the talking part.
Wow. Well, thanks for being honest there. Robert, you had your hand up. Do you want to say something?
Ryan, did your sister see the piece?
No, she passed away about 10 years ago. She was severely anorexic.
And do you talk about other things in your childhood? My question is, do family members ever see you work?
No, I have no family. I have a brother, but that's everybody died. My parents died young, and so I'm really. I think I'm working it all out actually, but it's I'm processing it. But
I'd like to do that, but I think I have to wait for certain people to.
I'm going to address that in my closing remarks. Angela, you had your hand up.
Ryan, I just wanted to commiserate with you a quick story. I used to go to convalescent homes and sing because a lot of convalescent homes don't have budget for entertainment with a pay it forward band. And one day we were doing a show. Thank you, Valerie. And there was a gentleman there who sat the entire time with his head like this. And the whole time we were singing, and so I came up to the mic and I said, "Thank you guys so much for having us here today. Do you have any requests that you would like to hear today?" And the gentleman who had been sitting with his head in his hand sat up and said, "Can you shut the fuck up?" And I was like, "I don't know that song."
No, but if you hum a few bars, maybe I'll sing it.
So I just wanted to say, Ryan, you're not alone, man. It happens to us all. And I explained to that gentleman that was a song I had never had requested before, but I would get back with him. So
But it's very quick on our feet.
I love it.
Marionette, it was cell phones. People would talk on their cell phones. And I would say, "I'm live, I'm here, I can hear you."
Well,
I used to accidentally pour water on it.
yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, you better put it away."
yeah.
But some of you know that for 20 years I performed as Carol Channing, and I was doing an event once, and I was on stage, and I was about to do Before the Parade Passes By, and there's the speech that goes into that, Ephraim, let me go. So I'm on stage, and I looked up into the heavens, and I go, "Ephraim," and this voice in the back of the theater goes, "What?" And when I told Carol this story, she thought it was one of the funniest things that she had ever heard. She loved it.
Answered you.
She loved it. That was the first time it ever happened. But I'm going to give, first of all, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank all of you who are watching. I'm going to give each of you a chance to have your final word today. It could be about anything we spoke about that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message you want to leave everyone with before you sign off today. When you finish speaking, you will pick the next person, and so on, and so on, and so on. And the last person, when you say goodbye, the show will end, so you don't have to worry about, how do I get out of here? I will take care of that.
Okay.
But, it's very interesting. A few years ago, I wrote a show called The Magic of Believing, about my growing up in South Carolina and coming to New York and the dreams that I had as a kid. And I grew up in an alcoholic household. And as I was writing this show, my sister called me and said, "Be careful what you say." And I said, "This is my story to tell. And I am not going to say anything that's going to make my family uncomfortable or to make my audience feel uncomfortable. My goal was to give the audience an enjoyable experience. That being said, every artist has a right to tell their story the way they want to tell their story. And I am not a proponent of censorship when it comes to telling your story. I believe it's very important that every artist has a right to tell their story and to live their authentic selves and to tell their stories on stage. And if you're uncomfortable with that, or if it makes you uncomfortable, quietly slip out the door, and don't yell back at the actors, just quietly leave. Don't make a scene, just do that, because some things can be uncomfortable. Some things can be triggering. I understand that. We are all on our own journeys, and we're all going through things. When I look at what is going on in the world right now, last week I was watching the news. I was a basket case. I was crying, and I said, I can't take this anymore. And as I said, I can't take this anymore, I caught myself and I said, listen to yourself. As you're saying, I can't take it anymore, they're living it. They're going through this on a day-to-day basis. And I think that if something is triggering something inside of you, thank God you've got that empathy that allows you to feel what another person is feeling. And I think that that's something that it's terribly lacking in today's world. And we are shutting off far too much. And I love these opportunities when we can all come together and share our stories, share our truths, whether it be through song, whether it be through joke, whether it be through the written word, whatever it is, your medium is. If you're a writer, write. If you're a singer, sing. Find a way to be able to tell your story, and to be able to tell your stories so that those after you will know your stories, so that your stories are important to be told. I end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. I think all of you were on Facebook. Go to your Facebook friends list, and the fifth name that pops up, reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. And let that person know the impact that they've made on your life. And by doing so, what you're going to do is you're going to make an impact on their life. I remember when Stephen Loveback passed away last week, I see the outpouring of love. It was sudden, and I see the photographs, and I see the pictures and of the selfies with him and the testimonials and those moments. And I thought how wonderful it would have been if he had seen this a week ago. And I always hope that when people do pass on, that they have a sense of how much they are loved. And I think it's important that we take the time to do that with the people that matter in our lives. I have a dear friend, Sean Moniger, and he says we're all in the same storm, but we're in different size boats. And I always say, I don't care what size boat you're on, as long as you have a skipper by your side. I'm going to leave the screen, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Ryan. And when you finish, you will pick the next person, and so on and so on. You all matter so much to me. And thank you. I'm here when you need me. Goodbye. Ryan.
Well, thank you, Richard. This has been a great afternoon. I just want to say, Valerie, you reminded me of something that I read about Bob Fosse, where he had it down to two very, very fine dancers. And he couldn't make his mind up until he saw them both interact with the accompanists playing the audition. And one was much sweeter than the other, and that's the one he went with.
Awesome.
So thank you. Thank you for making me think of that. I used to work in customer service, and it taught me an awful lot about.
Everybody should.
Say it again.
Everyone should.
Yes, I think so. My brother taught me something very interesting, and I employ it. When you finally get the person on the line, no matter how you've been waiting, how long you've been waiting, you ask them how their day was. Oh. Before you start to whine about what you want. Okay, I will choose Angela.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys so much. It's been such an amazing show. Everybody said so many just mind-blowing things. I guess I'm actually just grateful that I ended up here today. I think that we discussed so many things that are so relevant to what's going on in my life right this moment, and I'm so grateful that Richard brought me on to celebrate the show that we're doing Monday night, and I'm really excited, and I'll be rehearsing this weekend. So I'm just kind of going into my weekend now, celebrating that show is even happening, and the people are coming, and then we get to have fun doing some music. So I will pick Robert. Robert, thank you so much. And you can go next.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. This has been an absolutely horrible year for me. My mental health has been fragile. I had to be hospitalized. I received shock therapy, which I think was the worst mistake I've ever made. And it frightens me that it's taken away my spark. I had to go on Medicare and Medicaid. And the frustrating thing is I don't have a therapist that will take my insurance. But what I want to say is being on this panel with all of you people, and being asked by Richard, who we all know is just the best. I feel that this has been a real inspiration, and inspiration is in spirit. It comes from spirit. So I'm gonna start crying. I want to thank you all. It was the best therapy I've had, and mwah. Oh, I have to pick someone. I messed up my line. Claudine.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Robert. Thank you. I just want to thank everybody. I have been trying to work on a new show, and it's very personal. My last show was very personal and it did well for me, but you kind of go and you go, nobody wants to hear this crap. You don't want to hear, yeah. But listening to all the stories, I was just so compelled, and so excited by the stories that I think, yeah, people do want to hear each other's stories. We want to know about each other, and so I've got the impetus to go back and finish it, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, everybody. And I'm gonna pick Valerie. Guess
Like being picked last for football or something. Well, thank you, Richard. I'm glad I finally was able to join in the conversation, and you can see me now. We had some technical difficulties. Just everything was really wonderful listening to you all and coming from a different side, but also in the cabaret world for a little bit. And just when I first started at 54, one thing I wanted to share is that Barbara Cook was one of the first shows when I started there in 2013. And I got such a kick out of listening to her. And she sat on the stage and she sat in a chair and wove together her song through stories of her life. And I thought when I was working and I was polishing things really quietly in the corner, and I thought, wow, this is just so great. Like, she's just sitting up there telling stories. Like, what a treat. And then the next night I was working and she came on and she did her little story in between. And I thought, that's the same story she told last night. But it was so great because she was so prepared, and it was a show, and I didn't get that. I thought it was all improvised. But that's just the power of being prepared and how we are prepared for. And you know what, Ryan, if you're still listening, I wanted to tell your stories. Don't hold back. And you know what? That makes a show so much better. And when people connect, when they're performing on a small stage, especially when they make eye contact and bring people in and engage, it makes it the best show possible, instead of someone standing up on a stage and looking to the far wall and then why are you here? Like, we can see you, we're here. And just one thing for everybody is just be kind. Go out and be kind to everyone that you encounter. You never know that little kindness that you extend to someone, a stranger in the store, helping them get something off a shelf or letting them go ahead of you in line. Those little things just really matter. And if we are kind to each other, and starting with ourselves, self-love, we all have to work on that. So work on the self-love and be kind to everyone and pass it on. Thank you so much, Richard. Wonderful meeting you all. It was really fun. Thank you. Have a great day and be blessed.